to Allie's Attic, where you never know what kind of surprise you'll find in my attic. I'm your host, Allie, and today my surprise is a North American pop rock duo, James and Carrie Walsh. Hi, guys.
Hi.
Hi, Allie.
How are you?
Doing great.
Doing great. It's a beautiful day here in Florida. The weather's fine, and we're probably going to hit the beach pretty soon.
Okay, so I'm so jealous right now. Anyways, I'm glad that you're like that. I would die to be able to just go to the beach. We have to drive an hour to go to a beach in the city. But anyway, so I've listened to your music. I know about you. I think you guys are brilliant. The songwriting blows me away. So I know, James, you're originally from Scarborough, Ontario, and Carrie, you're from Syracuse, New York? Am I saying that right?
That's right.
Okay. And you first met at the beach, ironically enough, in Venice Beach, California. So, kind of tell us your journey and like when each of you became interested in music and, you know, how it led up to how you guys are right now.
Well, James and I met about 2,500 miles away from where we grew up. We were both raised in the Great Lakes area. I'm from Syracuse, and James is from Toronto, Scarborough. And we met in Venice Beach, California, just as you've said. And we both share the same values, and so when we met, it was like an instant connection.
Well, really, I was living the life of Riley at the time I met Carrie. I was apartment managing a small building right down on the beach, 10 steps from the sand, and I was having a wonderful time because I was learning computers. I could play my guitar when I wanted to, and I only really had to work about 2 or 3 hours out of the day. The rest of the time I could study, go to classes. I was taking animation design at the Animation Institute in the Valley. For those of you who don't know, when you say the Valley, you mean the San Fernando Valley on the other side of the Hollywood Hills. And we just had a wonderful time at the beach. The weather's beautiful. And for me, I guess, I had been in bands and they always broke up. So I kind of said, that's it for me. I'm not doing music. But Carrie heard me playing guitar and convinced me that I should, work with her. And she's a great singer. And I just thought, well, okay, I'll give it another shot. I'll take a chance. And we've been, from the day we met, we've been together ever since. We spent the whole summer together, and I taught her about California,
Mm-hmm. So you guys are married now, right?
Yes, we've been married over a decade and working together just as long. We formed the beach that first summer we formed the band that first summer we were together at the beach. And we started talking about recording together and, writing songs. And we actually, we drove the coast, up the west coast to Victoria, BC, and we wrote our first song there called Crazy on the Islands. And it just all grew from there. We've traveled a lot, and our songs are inspired by nature and leisure activities. And James says that he likes to have a good time all the time. So that's one of our mottos.
That's a good motto. That's an awesome motto.
Yeah, I actually stole that from one of my friends, Bruce McKnight of Nightlife Band in Philadelphia, but I thought it was such a good idea that we should share it, and kind of adopt it. But yeah, I was doing storyboards at the beach for friends that were filmmakers, and I don't know if you know Santa Monica and Venice Beach, but it's kind of a a place where artists and filmmakers gather anyway, and they all kind of commiserate with each other, and you know, there's art galleries there and tech companies and all these different film companies, and it's just a great place to be, you know, especially during high season in the summer when all the visitors come from all over the world. So.
Yeah, and they do. I know that's one of the places I've always wanted to go. Now, where did you come up with the name Bristol Kids?
Oh, that's an easy one. um, Before I met Carrie, I'd met a girl from Bristol, England, and she wanted me to move to England and live with her and her mom in her house and stuff and just be her guy. But, you know, that didn't really come about. That didn't really happen. There, you know, I won't go into great detail, but we didn't really totally hit it off. And, you know, I kind of had it in my mind that Bristol is a name that everybody's familiar with. There's a Bristol, Tennessee, you know, there's Bristol, England, there's a Bristol in Canada, and I just came up with the idea of Bristol Kids one day because it was like, even though we were grown-ups, we were still, as far as our musicianship goes, we were still like kids, you know.
Mm-hmm.
We're still learning. And anyways, I found out that Bristol, England was an artist colony, so I just liked the name, you know, and everybody I talked to, friends, I'd say, what do you think of this name for a band? They all said, oh, I like it, you know.
Mm-hmm.
We never got a negative reaction, you know. The band I was in before that was an international band, and we played in the student hotel in Melrose in Hollywood, and it was called the Posh Slags because that's what this English girl who's from London said about the Spice Girls. They were a bunch of posh slags. So I said, can I use that as a band name? And she said, yeah, but like that name never really got the kind of acceptance that Bristol Kids does, you know?
Yeah, well, especially people from the UK that knows what that means.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, you know, but like the thing of it is that we were having a great summer. We were playing cover tunes and stuff, and there was a guy from Seagram's there who wanted to manage us, and you know, he was from Montreal, and you know, he had done management before. But when 9/11 hit, you know, most of them just, you know, said to me, "Oh, my visa's expired," and you know, they were gone. So that kind of fell apart, except for the lead guitar player, who was half American, half Scottish. You know, his dad was a Navy admiral, and his mom was a Scottish nurse. So he grew up in Scotland, and he was a great guitar player. His name was Stephen. He could play anything, and you know, he went back to Scotland too. You know, because his family missed him. So I was kind of stuck there by myself. So I moved back to the beach and started going back to art classes, and you know, I thought I was going to work at Disney. I was being groomed for it by one of the top artists at Disney. But then Eisner and Roy Disney got into kind of a pecker contest, and that soured it for me. So when Carrie showed up, it was perfect timing. I was ready.
And Bristol also reflects the culture where James grew up in Scarborough. He was surrounded by people from the UK and from Ireland, and
True.
And so it sort of reflects that as well. We're 50% Canadian, and I grew up so close to the Canadian border that James says I'm practically Canadian.
Yeah. Well, that's cool, close to the Canadian border, but still being on the other side of the states. That's where I'd like to be. But anyway, so then you guys met and, you know, started, like, so did the relationship come first or did the music come first?
The relationship kind of came first, I would say. You know, really, from the moment I laid eyes on her, I knew that I was going to ask her out, and you know, we would hopefully spend the summer together, and you know, it would go from there. But I had no thought of being in a band at that moment in time. I thought my path was set.
Mm-hmm.
I was going to do animation model design at Disney or work at Disney Products or something.
Yeah.
And to me, that was like a solid career because I'd been invited in to study even, at Disney. I was the only outside artist who wasn't working there that actually got invited to go into classes inside Disney Products where my teacher was teaching, the new hires.
Mm-hmm.
And I loved it. It was, you have to understand, when I was 5 years old and I was watching some Disney program on television in Toronto, I said that I was going to work there one day. So it was actually coming true for me.
Mm-hmm.
Just kind of took me a long time to get there. It's like life kind of takes you on a journey. So you're like all over Canada, then you're like all over California. And I spent a lot of time in Northern California working as an artist, and eventually got a grant and then got, money for school. So I continued my education, and I had to move to Hollywood. And I don't know if you've ever been to Hollywood, but it's not like anywhere else in the United States. It's like unique.
Mm-hmm. No, I've
And
never been.
yeah, I mean, they spent $90 million just refurbishing Hollywood Boulevard and putting in the home of the Oscars.
Wow.
And, the Chinese theaters there, and I would walk down Hollywood Boulevard with my guitar in hand, practicing scales on my way to school.
Mm-hmm.
And I wasn't the only one. There was like tons, there's like 500 guitar players from all over the world going there. And, I got stopped on the boulevard one day, by these people who worked at NBC, and they wanted me to tell a joke for national TV. And I said, sure, I'll do it. So I just found that I loved the school, and I loved the education I was getting, and I wanted to stay in Southern California. But Carrie loves Florida, so we're in Florida now.
That's funny. So then, okay, so you guys, the relationship started first, and then you started writing, and
Yeah,
like
I've always written.
you've always written. And Carrie, did you always write too, or?
Well, I don't have the formal training that James has. He studied at Musicians Institute,
And Toronto Conservatory, so.
Oh.
and he was, when I met him, he was a really well developed fingerstyle player, and he was also, playing lead as well. So I heard him play a song he calls Miss Westerby, and it was an instrumental song about someone that he once knew, and I just the sound of his playing and the finger style and everything was so beautiful. It just captivated me. His composition, I mean, just his touch, I mean, just everything. So what I bring to Bristol Kids and what I brought that day was, I had studied with a vocal coach. I had piano lessons, had wonderful teachers, and I just really love music. I'm such a fan. I had a pretend radio station when I was 10 years old, and I used to make up songs, and I used to sing and dance, and I just love the arts. And so over the years, I've really developed, really studied a lot, and really, I find that it's really enriching to learn about other artists and, how they came along and how they were able to break through and how they were able to write. And just being around James and, I learned so much, and he inspires me. And so I started writing melodies. He writes all the lyrics to the songs. He writes the chord progressions, and they're so well developed and beautiful. that it just inspires me. My memory, my imagination, my love of music. I just, it just, I choose the words that he's written, and then music just pours out.
Wow, that is awesome. Now, it's like in your bio, it says the natural chemistry when they write creates an interplay that brings out both their best qualities, which you've both just said. Also, you get your inspiration from nature and everyday stories.
This is true. Sometimes it's part of, what I call them, like Disney said, Imagineering, It kind of, for me, I've been writing lyrics since I was 12. So by the time, I was 24, I'd gotten pretty good at it,
Mm-hmm.
Friends, I would ask friends, what do you think of this? And they go, okay, here's a good example. One goes, I like it. It's like poetry, but I can't write music to this. Sorry. Right? And
Wow.
that was usually the response. It was like, I can't write to this. I can't sing tectonic plates. Are you crazy? And I'd be like, yeah, but when I sing this in Toronto with my friends, on the beaches, it works fine. And they were like, okay, well, you sing it, or you write the music. And I love to collaborate. I mean, that for me is the fun part of the whole thing, is like, I got an idea and I bounce the idea off of Carrie, and then she comes back with a beautiful vocal melody, or she says, I don't like that line. Can we change it to this? That whole interaction is the fun part for me, is when the song is being born. After the song is born, then now we've got to sit down and do the technical thing of putting it in proper time. Like, what tempo will it be? Okay, it's like 8 bars of verse, and then it's like 4 bars of chorus or whatever,
Mm-hmm.
Then I've got to do all that thing where I figure out how many beats per bar and, the whole timing thing. Because I never wanted to be the one who had to do that. I forced myself to learn it, When we were in the recording studio, our producer was Tony Brock of the Babies. He had played drums for Rod Stewart for 11 years. And Tony, he's very sweet and gentle person, but very professional, right? And he'll guide you through being in the studio for the first time. He'll take you by the hand and walk you through it. But he said, you got to play with a click track on this guitar part. I was playing like a Martin 12 string. This is before I was endorsing Seagull and Godin guitars that are made in Montreal, right?
Mm-hmm.
So he goes, okay, you got to do this. You got to play with the click, And I said, what's a normal time to learn how to do this? Because I'd never played with a click track. I always liked playing with a drummer,
Mm-hmm.
And I tend to really want to create things and just kind of be totally, free. And he said, the normal time is 2 weeks, but you got 3 minutes.
Oh.
So I was like, okay, well, you know what? I'm going to do this. I'll show you, was my attitude. My attitude was like, okay, let's win one for the home team. I'll show you what a Canadian can do, right? Just wait. Well, I grew up with a Liverpudlian guy, and he had that, attitude like, 80% is your attitude. Just take your best shot. So I did it, right? And after we were done, he said, you did a good job. You stepped up to the plate. You hit a home run. And he said, it's only off by a tenth of a hundredth of a millisecond. I'll just move it over. It's like first time ever doing that. And I nailed it, according to him. And he's got 45 years as a professional musician. So I was pleased, And I think it really was my attitude. I Like, I'm not going to let some studio musician play my part. No way, And the studio musicians that he brought in were friends of his, to back us up. And it was fun. And I learned so much, and I'm always grateful for that. And, I don't have a big head about it, but at the same time, it did boost my confidence a bit,
Yeah, it
right?
definitely would. Yeah.
But I mean, Carrie and I, we were just finding our way, getting our footing, and that was going on. And we were paying for everything anyway, right?
Yeah.
But he said, "Oh, I can't play drums and produce at the same time." And I just looked at him and said, "Oh, come on, for you it's dead easy." And so he goes, "Okay, I'll do it."
Wow.
So I brought in his friend who was the guitar player to man the boards while he played drums, and we built it all track by track. I actually wanted to play and sing live in the studio, but he said, "No, you can't do that because that's not how it's done. There'll be bleed through and all these other technical issues.
Mm-hmm.
So we had our songs, and I can remember being there and Carrie saying to me, "Well, we changed our minds, and now I'm going to sing James's part, so I need you to rewrite the part for me." And 2 minutes later, I had it rewritten, and I handed it to her. And God bless her, she sang her butt off and did a fantastic job.
Yeah,
And
her voice is
like,
beautiful.
Tony was really pleased. I mean, she did their own harmonies and everything, and it took a long time for me to fully understand how things work in a studio because I'm in the moment. But, my favorite was probably when the bass player and the other guitar player um, and Tony were arguing about the timing of Alice Springs. Because I put 2 extra beats in there. We were in Mammoth in the mountains and renting a condo. I got the idea from Jack White of the White Stripes. You go up to the mountains and, then nobody can interrupt you.
Yeah.
The phone doesn't ring as much.
Mm-hmm.
And so Carrie said to me, when we did the demo, there's 2 extra beats in there. And I said, I'm not changing it. I was stubborn, I put my foot down. And she said, but there's 2 extra beats. And I said, I don't care. That's the way I wrote it. That's the way we're going to play it. I'm not changing it. And, so they were arguing, is it 5/8 time? Is it 7/8 time? No, it's 13/12 time or whatever. And I was amused by this because I didn't even think about that. I was just thinking in my own head how I was going to play it and play it in time. And Carrie and I had worked it out. So Tony, he said of Alice Springs, he said, what is that slide you do? And Carrie goes, that's the boomerang, because Alice Springs is a tribute to friends in Australia. So he accepted it, and, it seems like a lot of people in Australia really like the song.
Well, that's good. Now, both of you have been doing this for a while, and you know how how it is starting out. So if you had any advice to give a new artist that was just starting out, what would it be? And you can each answer.
Okay, I would say keep going and don't give up.
Good advice.
It is so important. And also, if you're working as a part of a group, I would say stay together. It's the most important thing because you have you're building something together, and if you allow differences, disagreements to sort of splinter that, then it can be lost. So I say stay together.
Yes, definitely. And James?
Well, being in a band is like a marriage, So you really have to have good chemistry between the members. And that doesn't always happen, as in the case of that band I was in before I met Carrie. they were fighting over songs, fighting over girls, and everything was born out of an argument. So that's very unpleasant. After a while, that will wear you down. So try to think of criticism as a positive thing, like don't see it as like an attack. If somebody says, well, this song is good, but it needs to be better, or if they don't like some of the verses, or they don't like the melody or whatever, it's okay to put the song away and come back to it later, so that you can see it and hear it with fresh eyes and ears,
Yeah.
And that's what I would say is like, be more patient than you've ever been before, because you could end up with something that's really timeless, It could be
Yeah.
gold.
Yeah, and you walk away. Now, you've already talked about one of the songs, but what two songs are we going to hear from you guys?
Okay, so Miracle Mile and Alice Springs, and we talked a little bit about Alice Springs. That's a tribute to friends in Australia, and Miracle Mile is about the the story is a guy and a girl, and they are living the life of Riley, enjoying life, putting their best foot forward, and always thinking positive, and it's about having a good time.
Yeah, it's about living on the Miracle Mile in Beverly Hills near
Wow.
the art museums, and then he's working and she's in the condo, and she, is working from home on her computer, and she runs off to the beach, to take a break. It's really about being urban professionals, I guess, in the 90s, before everything changed. And just being young and full of, vim and vigor, and enjoying every day and appreciating being alive. It feels good to be alive.
That's awesome. That is awesome. Okay, so and everybody, you can purchase Bristol Kids music pretty much anywhere where you purchase your online music. And they also have a website. I'll put it up on my website, but it is called bristolkidsband.com. I urge everybody to go there, get to know James and Carrie a little bit better. They sound like they have an amazing life and are doing exactly what they say they're doing. They're enjoying life and doing what they want to do and going to the beach. And I envy you guys, to be completely honest. I would love to live like that. So hats off to you. Because
Well, one thing I can say in response to that is that, um, what's the best way to put this? You have to choose it,
yeah, yeah,
Otherwise, it's like what John Lennon said, life is what happens to you while you're busy making plans,
mm-hmm,
You you have to be a little bit stubborn, a little bit proactive, and say, I'm not going to settle for something I don't want to do. Now, having said that, I will say that I've done every crappy job in America that there is, but I worked survival jobs so that we could do demos, and
yeah,
eventually we got to the point where everything was starting to come together, but we had to do, we had to pay our dues, we had to work, cashier jobs. Like I worked at the Shell in Mammoth Lakes,
yeah, I
But
know.
I made sure that we could get those demos done, It's okay to work hard, but still you need to have an idea of what you want to do and where you want to be, and then you've got to make it happen. It's not going to just fall in your lap like in the movies.
Yeah, exactly. Exactly. And that's kind of good advice to give new artists too, thinking that, they're going to be an overnight success, because it doesn't work that way. And you do have to work crappy jobs, and, you only get like maybe $100 if you go to a bar and perform, and you have to lug your own equipment. And it's a different lifestyle, but if it's your passion, it's worth it. I want to thank you guys so much for coming on my show. Nobody knows this, but I'm going to say my mic fell. And they were awesome enough to just wait until I could get it back on because I tried holding it and it's too heavy. So thank you so much for that, you guys. Like, I totally appreciate it. It doesn't happen ever until, today. And I wish you guys all the best. I think you're amazing. I think your story's amazing. I think both of you are amazing. You're just laid back and chill, and I loved talking to you. And yeah, I wish you all the best, and everybody go and purchase these songs or these albums and support them and, help
Can
them.
I just say one thing?
Sure, of course you can.
The album is available on iTunes, Apple Music, and you can also get it at CD Baby. And we do have we're on pretty much every social media channel. So you can find us on SoundCloud, MySpace, you name it, Facebook,
Okay.
Our Twitters, my Twitter is WalshJames78 and Carrie's is Carrie A. Walsh. And, follow us. And, I do have, a blog, Tech Talk by James, and occasionally I actually do blog. Sometimes I just throw pictures up, but there's a lot of advice for young guitar players on my Tech Talk by James on Tumblr. So if you dig deep enough, you'll find those.
Okay.
And the only other thing I would say is it's like Carrie said, don't give up. It's easy to get discouraged, but you have to just understand that it's the journey,
Mm-hmm.
It's not the destination,
Mm-hmm. Yeah, definitely.
Yeah, and there's a lot to learn, and we're still learning,
Yeah, I think that's with everybody. I mean, every day there's something new to learn. So thank you, Carrie and James, for coming on. I totally appreciate it, and I appreciate you guys. And this isn't a one-shot deal. If anything new happens, you get a new single, whatever the case may be, contact me. I have artists giving me their new singles. I'm putting it up on my website. It's under Odds and Ends, just to help promote, their songs. And I let artists come back if something new happens, if they have something they want to talk about. And also I have Allie's Artists in Alcove, which is on Wednesdays, where artists that I've had on come back and perform via Skype 4 songs. And it can be either audio or video, because I've now figured out how to do video. I'm not techie at all, James. So that's available. And just let me know if you are ever interested in any of that. And we'll keep in touch. And I will put your
Can we do the Skype video with the 4 songs? Can we do that in 3 weeks?
I have to check because I'm booked solid. I'm booked.
Okay, so it'll probably be like October.
No, I think it'll be September. I think August is done, but I don't think September is done. But I'll get a hold of you on Twitter and I'll tell you because I don't have my calendar in front of me right now. But yeah, it's a big hit. I started it a month and a half ago and everybody's loving it. And my listeners are going crazy for it. And I mean, I don't have the best setup and it's via Skype and it's not ever going to sound like a studio recording. But it's working as it is. And I'm just going to keep it simple. So yeah,
okay.
You can definitely,
I'll tell you.
And yeah, I'll get a hold of you on Twitter and let you know which date I have available, but I think it's the beginning of September. And yes, I would love to have you guys on. So once again, thank you so much and take care. We'll talk soon.
All right.
Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you. Thank you.
And thank you for joining me on Allie's Attic. Keep checking my website because you never know what kind of surprises you'll find in my attic. Cheers.